So peep my progress. I have now made it. In 7 days I've almost made the 28-mile challenge. I've done 27.3 miles in 6 days. So today we'll definitely smash that. And we have raised £306 out of my £500 target so far. That is crazy. Good morning. It is Friday the 7th of February. I am definitely coming down with a cold. I've got the flu and cold capsules because I'm really feeling it this morning. I really don't want to be sick. If this is on the cards for me, all I can do is be a puppet of the universe and crack through as much as I can. And if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. But we move on. I hope you're all well. I went to dinner with a friend last night and it was really good. I think I got in about 10:15. We ended up going to a place called Banana Tree. It's like pan Asian food. I had a teriyaki steak soba and then I had ice cream and sorbet afterwards. I don't usually afford myself a dessert, but you know. So a huge thank you to everyone who's donated so far, everyone who's supported me, who've messaged me saying that they like these videos. I would still do these if nobody watched these videos because I said at the beginning of the challenge that I would put 100% of my effort into this. And I feel like I am. I'm having a lot of fun. And we are going to see what today's topic is. I suppose I'd better go to work and earn some money. Feed all of you. All of you are so demanding, you and the cats. Rocky, at least have the audacity to look at me. Rocky? Rocky! A very dangerous game, and I have a lunchbox full of soup in my bag. Hopefully it's still in the lunchbox by the time I get to work, but we shall see. Pleased to report that the soup did survive the commute. I put it in a plastic bag just in case, but it didn't spill. Holly still has lunch for the day. I'm well happy with that. Hi, good evening. I didn't film any of my walks today. I was feeling too poorly when I walked into work this morning and I got a lift home. I spent my afternoon sneezing and snotting everywhere and it wasn't pretty. So I did manage to do about 1 point something of a mile on my commute this morning before I go to bed early and curl up and drown myself in cold and flu medications. We are talking about today's topic. How well do I think I know myself? If you asked me this a year ago, my answer would be very different to what it is today. Historically, I've always been very tough on myself, whether that was tough love from family members or whether that was tough love from myself to me for things that I think I fell short of. I've been extremely tough on myself growing up. I said before, I grew up with social anxiety. At school, if I was asked a question by a teacher, I would blush. Over time, I've worked on it incredibly. I've spent a lot of time working on it. I'm quite functional. Anxiety does flare up sometimes. You can usually tell if I'm in an uncomfortable situation, anxiety technically will appear more often. I used to grow up very scared of talking to people. I had a very small friend social circle. I relied on self-deprecating humour. At the time, I thought I was being funny, and it wasn't till I was a grown-up and I was in therapy, I began to think, oh, maybe I was doing this to try and find that common ground because I used to see myself as a joke when I was a teenager. I grew up not being a friend to myself, and that wasn't anyone's fault. I think it's because I saw my own flaws very clearly, and I used to really hate myself for it. I used to ask myself, why aren't I more popular? Why aren't I more thin? Why can't I be more intelligent in school? Why can't I get better grades? Why can't I hang out with the popular? On and on. And it continued to my late teens. So I moved down south when I was 19. My self-esteem up until then was very low. It didn't really start turning around until I got my first job when I was 19, my first proper job. And when you're someone with low self-esteem and you go into the world of work for the very first time, it's a very weird feeling. Because everything you've ever learned about at school in terms of societal norms, communication and respecting boundaries and respecting one another changes very slightly. It was about a common goal, but you were there to do a job. I started in recruitment. It was very, very tough. It was a very KPI driven atmosphere. I was expected, even on an administration side, to be able to pull my weight, which is what a business should teach you. You should, if you're a non-bill earner role, you should be pulling your weight in other ways, and that's basic business. It still took me a very, very, very long time to be a friend to myself. I didn't understand the true meaning or the value in it probably until about maybe very recently in terms of life. Maybe when I entered my 30s, I began to understand that no matter the people that you surround yourself with, your friends, your family, your partners, you can only really truly save yourself. And that doesn't mean that you're isolating yourself. It means that you are the only one that knows yourself best in the world, but you have to allow yourself in. You have to give your time to reflect. If you're upset about something that someone has done to you, instead of people pleasing and nodding and going, "I'm really sorry, I'll do better next time." Hold up. Why are you upset? Because they were mean to you? They said something unkind to you? Why does that upset you? And you need to keep unpacking it and going backwards and backwards and backwards until you think, oh, so-and-so said this to me when I was 8 years old, and now it's become kind of a crux in my personality that I didn't even realise that I had a problem with until now. I think to know ourselves is we've got to constantly be under the magnifying glass of self-reflection, and that's not even in an obnoxious way. It's in a that we need to be prepared with the fact that we do live with the people we see in the mirror every single day. Having the jobs that I've had, I've dealt with customers in a variety of different situations and ways. Because I work in veterinary, you get people that are happy, angry, sad, elated, disappointed, furious, and you have to trust yourself. You have to know yourself very intimately so you can operate in these situations how you would want to and how you would expect. Hey, if someone's yelling at me, if someone's arguing at me and I'm trying to relay information back, I need to know that I have my own back. If you don't have your own back, who does? How can your partner have your back if you don't have your back? Again, needless to say, that doesn't mean that you have to isolate yourself, but you do need to find out who you are at your core and make friends with yourself. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you find joy in? What are you uncomfortable with? I think we need to ask ourselves really uncomfortable questions, and I've had to do a lot of that recently. I've had to reflect on some really uncomfortable ideals within myself to understand why I feel certain ways. They're not always positive. Sometimes they are attachments or traits or flaws in personality, but we can't be afraid to ask ourselves the tough questions. We can't, because to do that we block ourselves out. We stop learning about ourselves. Every day is an opportunity to know yourself a little bit better. If I can know myself better in times where I'm feeling crappy, then I know that I can get through another instance like that in the future of the same thing. If I have something with someone that ended badly, I need to reflect on the reasons why that happened, what I felt like, and what I could do next time. This doesn't mean that you're victim blaming yourself. This means that you are looking out for yourself to figure out what you can do to save yourself from that pain the next time. For example, if you're attracted to one type of person and not dependable, but you're attracted to the intermittent positive reinforcement that that person provides you, even though they're avoidant and everything else, you become attached to that intermittent reinforcement. Someone once explained this as like a rat in a lab testing facility. Every time the rat presses a button, it's been trained to do that, it gets a piece of cheese. Positive reinforcement, that's exactly what it is. If sometimes when the rat is pressing the button and sometimes the cheese comes out, the rat is still going to be pressing the button every opportunity it has in the hope that it might get the delivery that it wants. And that is attachment. Attachment can come in many forms. Relationships, physical things, situations, types of people. And I think it's beneficial to know what we're attached to and what we're attracted to anything. I'm quite attached to cheese strings, but I know if I buy a pack of 12 cheese strings, I will eat 3 or 4 on the first day because I like the feeling and I like the attachment I have to cheese strings. It fills me with joy because I know myself for me to keep buying that 12 pack of cheese strings, I'm going to keep consuming more than I should every single time because I'm attached to them. So if I know myself well, I know the next time I see a 12 pack of cheese strings, I can think, okay, historically I would have bought that, I would have eaten half the pack on the way home. Why don't I go for a smaller pack? Why don't I go for a 4 pack of cheese strings? It is more limiting. Or even better, no cheese strings. If I'm in the mood for cheese strings, why don't I just kind of think to myself, okay, we're going to get something else, and then next time we come, we'll get cheese strings. I try and know myself very well. It doesn't always work because there are always new situations, new people that you're going to come across. Very many varieties of situation. Like I said in my last video, it's beneficial when you get hurt by something that you can't foresee, something that you haven't come across before, to use that opportunity to learn. Sadly, as painful as it is, we cannot know ourselves until we've had pain after pain after pain, because until we know how we're gonna function in these situations, we don't know how we're going to react if we've never gone through that situation before. It's all very well me sat here saying, I think Kirsty should leave her boyfriend because he's doing this and this to her. I'm nothing to do with that situation. It's very easy for me to say this because I'm detached from it. I've got no emotional investment in it. And it's the same thing for other people. I could tell someone my experiences recently. Someone else will say, why didn't you do this or this? Because they're detached from the situation. I'm attached, they're detached. They've got a more respectable, fuller view of what the facts are rather than the fantasy of a situation. I think knowing yourself means that you do need to take those rose-tinted lenses off sometimes. You need to let yourself have those learning opportunities to fully know how you're going to react, what you're going to do, what you like, what you dislike. Sometimes you don't know what you want. Sometimes you don't know what pleases you. You're comfortable with what you're not comfortable with. Sometimes you have to be on your own to figure that out. To know yourself is to meet yourself every single day in the mirror. I don't know if I'm my own best friend. I think that's really hard to say sometimes. The way I view this is that I separate myself through time periods, and I believe that there is a Holly in every time period. That is me. I try and conduct myself as if I'm preparing my life for the younger Holly who will step into this time period. I try and do it from a self-defense perspective. Do I want to do this and hurt her down the line? Just detaching yourself from who you are at the moment to thinking about yourself in another context is beneficial, if that makes sense. I try and live my life as if I'm preparing it in a maternal way for my younger self, who will someday step into these shoes when my current self moves on to the next time period. Because I want to protect that girl. I want to protect that young girl. She's worth protecting. And in seeing her like that as a separate entity, I then learn to protect myself. I don't think we fully learn ourselves for a long time. There's no book on who we are. There's no rules. We are left to ask ourselves these questions, but that is the most important thing, that we do ask ourselves these questions, that we do not live in ignorance. I don't want to be ignorant to myself. I used to be very, very good at talking and giving advice to other people and not taking it myself because I didn't think I was worthy of giving myself the advice. I don't feel like that anymore, but you need to introduce yourself to yourself. There is a very good podcast called Date Yourself Instead. Become Her, another very good podcast about self-exploring, knowing yourself, not being afraid to say what you want, being introduced to the idea of that you are your own best friend and that you need to look out for yourself because no one else will to the extent that you will. Not needless to say, it's not as if no one else is going to care ever, but you will look after yourself the most. You will know what you want the most. You will know yourself the most, but you have to let yourself in. If you constantly block yourself out, there is a self-esteem issue. There is a self-worth issue there. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means that you haven't met yourself fully yet. Maybe ask yourselves those questions. Are you happy? Is there anything you want to be doing right now? What do you enjoy? What makes your soul happy? Go from there. You might be surprised what you find. Look after yourself. You are your own best friend, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully, well, we will see.